ongoing series of events. Right now we're talking about the new vSphere 5 release. I do have David Kraft from VMware on the phone with me, and we'll be both of us will be going over some of the storage enhancements, probably the biggest enhancements in vSphere 5. David, you want to say hello?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Really appreciate it. Look forward to helping everybody out and answering any questions that we have today. Thanks,
okay.
Kevin.
Thanks, David. And so we're going to walk through the agenda here right now, just to let you know we are recording this. And if you want to download the presentation, if you're on the live meeting, up at the top right-hand corner, it looks like a bunch of pages on the top toolbar, and that's actually a handout section. You'll be able to get this presentation and also a download of the 10 events that we have coming up in October and November throughout the East Coast of the United States, where we will be in person talking about cloud and the advancements that vSphere 5 is going to be giving you in your private cloud environment. Let's just talk about Champion for a few seconds. I only have 2 slides, I promise, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation. For those of you that don't know Champion, Champion is a East Coast company. We're based out of Boca Raton, Florida. We have 22 offices spread across 11 states, mainly east of the Mississippi, and we specialize in 5 areas. Virtualization and cloud computing, which is the area of the company that I'm most involved in. Data management and security, so we do everything from backup and restore all the way to data migrations, all the way through governance and data security. We also have professional services, where everything that we sell, we can install, we can help customers set up. We have a maintenance consulting practice. This is a big part of savings for our customers, where we can combine all of your extended maintenance agreements into a single bill every quarter, every month, every year, however you want it arranged, and usually get you a much better price on your maintenance because we consolidate more than 1,000 companies' maintenance contracts and get a great deal from IBM and HP and Cisco and a lot of other people. And then obviously we have IT sourcing and procurement services, where if you need to buy, for instance, VMware licenses, we're a great place to go to help you get the right licenses for your company. And our whole goal is really to reduce costs, increase productivity, and improve application availability. And that's why we partner so strongly with VMware, because they fit all of those criteria of reducing costs, increasing uptime, and productivity. And here's just a quick slide of the things that we do. I don't want to take a lot of time on this. We want to talk about the meat and potatoes. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to review vSphere licensing, which is what we did on our first webinar. I just have a few slides just for those of you that didn't get a chance to be on the one that specifically talked about licensing, and there are some changes in vSphere 5. I'm also going to talk about the other enhancements besides storage that we went over last one 2 weeks ago, when we went over all the benefits of vSphere 5. And then we're going to focus in on today's call, which is all about storage. We're going to talk about the storage enhancements, the new high availability that's been announced, also the new VMFS 5, which is the new file system. We're going to talk about data protection, which is now built into vSphere 5. We're going to talk about storage DRS. As you all know, DRS has been a big part of vSphere since version 3. But now we're going to talk about using DRS in our storage environment along and with vMotion and how that works. And then we're going to finish up and talk about the new virtual storage appliance from VMware that's available only in version 5. So these are the areas we're going to cover. We are going to have a question and answer session at the end. So if you have any questions, just jot them down on a piece of paper, and you'll be able to ask them at the end. David and I will try to answer any questions that you might have. So let's get started. Let's just review the licensing that we talked about last year. 2 times ago. Sorry, it was still this year. But vSphere 4.1, as you can see, as compared to 5, you can see that from budgeting purposes, nothing has changed. You're still going to buy it by CPU, by socket, just the way you always have. Where the difference is you actually get a per core no limit license now, where, for instance, in version 4, only if you had Enterprise Plus could you go above 6 cores inside a single processor. Now you can get unlimited cores inside each processor with no restrictions on any of your levels that you are, whether you're down at, standard or whether you're all the way up at Enterprise Plus, you'll be able to get all of those restrictions waived. But if you take a look at where the new things are, when we're talking about getting memory allocated per processor, this is what's changed. But as you can see, it's a very beefy allocation. If we're just talking about Essentials or Essentials Plus or Standard, you're getting 32 gigs of VRAM. This is RAM entitlements that are pooled and shared across the host, and then they can be easily redistributed any way that you need them. So 32 gigs per processor, that means on a server with 64 gigs of memory with 2 processors, you're fully licensed. If you move up to Enterprise, you get 64 gigs per processor, or in other words, on for instance, IBM 3950 or 3650, or on a DL380 from HP, or on a 2950 from Dell, you'll get 128 gigs of memory that you can allocate out of that host. If you go Enterprise Plus, you get 192. So we're talking about a lot of memory here, more than most companies use, but it is a way of allocating memory per processor that's brand new in vSphere 5. And then the monitoring tool that you get, the built-in monitoring tool for vCenter, which provides real-time monitoring of your VRAM so you can make sure that you're not over-allocating or overusing your memory allocations, and it's built right into vSphere 5. Now, just so we give you an explanation of, what is VRAM, because a lot of people don't, it's the total memory configured to your virtual machines. So for instance, if your regular allocation, for instance, for 2008 server, standard server, is 4 gigs, that's the allocation that you would use as part of your VRAM. So for instance, if you had 192 allocations of VRAM, you could get, just doing the math quick, that's 48 servers on a single host. So you can see the allocation is very, very beefy. All right, and this is just another chart to show you how this figures out. So like I said, Enterprise Plus 96, Enterprise 64, and then your Standard and Essentials are all 32 gigs. So as you can see down here, 2 sockets, 4 cores per socket. You get 48 gigs of VRAM. That's and 12 cores. So you can see that each one of your hosts, each one of your processors gets 64, with your host getting 128 if this is an Enterprise Edition license. Anything you want to add to that, David?
No, Kevin, I think you kind of hit it. The most important thing is the fact that VRAM is pooled. So everything that's connected to the vCenter, you can actually take all of those VRAM units and then distribute them out at will. And in addition to that, if you have multiple different licensing types, so maybe if you have a standard license or an enterprise license, the suggestion is to make sure that you have them at the same level so that you can increase the pool and be able to get greater consolidation ratios with VMware. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, that's a great point, David. And that pooled licensing scheme is key because, as we all know, we're going to have some servers that are more burdened than others, and you can just make sure that your pooled allocations are being used where they need it. So let's just, and quickly, I'm just going to go over just some of the other vSphere 5 enhancements. Obviously, as you can see, the storage enhancements we're going to go over today, but the things that you're going to see in vSphere 5 is, for instance, ESXi conversions. So all that you can do in vSphere 5 is ESXi. There is no more fully installable ESX, and that's really going to lock down and make your environment a lot more secure. You're going to see, obviously, the auto-deploy option, where now you can set up profiles and auto-deploy your hosts. You'll see that we're now on a new virtual machine format. In fact, this is version 8, where you get a lot of enhancements when it comes to I/O, a lot of enhancements when it comes to video, and then Apple support. This is something that our customers here at Champion, especially in the education market, have been asking for, dying for, the ability to run OS X in a virtual machine for their students. And now it's available in vSphere 5. I'm going to skip by the storage, talk just real quickly here about the network enhancements. You're going to see, like I said, there are some networking I/O enhancements that are huge. And then, of course, the distributed switch architecture, which is key when you start developing your private cloud environment. And you'll see in our next webcast on the 27th that we're going to go into a lot of detail about designing and implementing your own private cloud and how VMware actually has really the best solution on the market for that. High availability enhancements that you're going to see, the vMotion that we talked about, but you're going to see that the vMotion in vSphere 5, not storage vMotion, but standard vMotion, is actually enhanced. We're going to talk about security, at least the security when I was talking about ESXi and the firewalls that are now built into there. Scalability, and this is something that, when you want to start virtualizing your larger applications, your applications that need more disk storage, more memory, you're going to see that scalability is a big part of vSphere 5 when we can do larger virtual machines. And then management, and this is key, obviously, when you're running a robust environment like VMware, to have all the tools that are available to you. There is the web client, but more importantly now, you'll have the ability to download a virtual vSphere server appliance right from VMware, pre-configured, hardened, ready to go, built in Linux, where you don't have to spend for a Microsoft license. And this is brand new, and a lot of our customers are actually taking advantage of this right now. So let's talk about the storage enhancements, the reason that we're here today. And as you can see, vSphere 5 offers a lot of improvements when it comes to storage. And this is obviously a big part of virtualizing your environment, is the ability to take advantage of centralized storage and all the enhancements. But now, with the things that you see over there, we're going to go over storage DRS. We're going to go over profile-driven storage. In other words, storage that is driven by the type of access, the type of performance that you need, so that you can use lower-cost storage where needed and higher performance storage where it's needed, and still get a better TCO than using one standard brand of storage. We're going to talk about VMFS5 and the advancements there. And as you can see, we're going to take advantage of all these new tools that VMware is offering. So let's talk about high availability, which now is not just at the level of the virtual machine, but now it actually runs at the host level. And this is key when you're looking for a highly available, high-performance environment for your Tier 1 applications. And that's one of the things that my customers have been trying to get to, is the ability to virtualize all of their servers, not just a group of servers, not their Tier 2 or Tier 3, but be able to do things like Exchange and databases, where they've always held back because of, they felt they couldn't get the performance or the high availability. So as you can see, by running vSphere HA, you can actually now take your hosts and have them actually running in a high availability scenario, where if you have one of your servers act as basically the master of this cluster, it will actually then load balance the other pieces of the cluster and give you that performance and that high availability that you've been looking for to run your tier 1 applications. So as you can see, this one environment, it monitors the health of the master. It also monitors all the different running states of all the virtual machines and makes adjustments as resources are needed or allocated to each one of the hosts. So it's a big part of doing this. And the way that we can do this is through the election process, that even if you lose that master host, it gives you the ability to elect a new one almost simultaneously as you lose the other one. It moves all of those reference material over to there and then is shut down, put in maintenance mode so that you don't have any of the corruption that you'd have in running 2 masters at the same time. So this has been well thought out, and even if you partially lose networks, you still have connectivity via the management network for all of your hosts. It just gives it a much easier way for you to be able to fail over your applications, make sure that they're uptime, and all that's needed to do this is a simple agent that's installed inside the ESXi kernel in the host, and it gives you all that traffic to be able to make sure from a load balancing standpoint, and we're talking about level 2 and level 3 now standpoint, and it also encrypts all that traffic between all of it. And the data stores are backed up from a communication channel to make sure that not only is your host available, but the right storage is available for this high availability option. So as you can see, the vSphere High HA feature, it provides scalability and a solid foundation to build that cloud that I was talking about. It gives you ease of management because it's built right into the vCenter console. It gives you troubleshooting that's built right in, again, to the vCenter console, and it gives you increased communication mechanisms that are built behind the scene to make sure that this cluster is up and running, and those applications that you need to have highly available can now be virtualized and take advantage of this new infrastructure. So, David, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, Kevin, thanks. Really appreciate it. Yeah, this is the ability now to ensure uptime to the virtual machine, as well as the available resources. So really there isn't a reason why you wouldn't want to look at virtualizing all of your applications. Just another added enhancement, vSphere stack. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. So let's talk about VMFS5, and this is probably one of the areas where I get the most questions. For those of us that have been around VMware for a while, we remember the last time that we upgraded the file system when we went from version 2 to version 3 ESX, and it was it wasn't the most pleasant of experiences because you had to actually take down the volumes and upgrade them into the next level. One of the things that VMFS5 gives us that's more important than anything else, it gives us live migrations with no downtime to be able to take advantage of all these new features inside VMFS5. So as you can see, you'll be able to increase the size limits of the file system and support much larger single extent VMFS volumes. In fact, you can go all the way up now to 64 terabytes on a single extent in one data store. So we're talking about huge amount of increase, especially for, like David was saying, the ability to now be able to virtualize all of these larger servers that haven't been candidates to this point. Now we can get to that 100% virtualized goal that most customers have. You can also use the VIIA locking mechanisms and be able to do more tasks for better performance. We're going to go into more detail about how that works, but this will actually work with the arrays that you have in place. The virtual array will communicate with all the supported arrays, like from IBM and EMC and Dell and HP and so on down the line, and give you a much better performance, much better locking mechanism than you've had in previous versions. The other thing is space reclamation that gives you the ability on thin provisioning to reclaim that space that prior to this you couldn't get back. It also gives us a much smaller sub-block size. So you can go all the way down now to 1K files and not have to allocate large block sizes, 32, 16K block sizes, which when we're talking about small, configuration files and small files, this can actually give you a much higher utilization rate on your storage than you've got before. And you can see that there's a unified block size that's stretched across there. Now, like I was telling you, this is the interface that you're going to see in vSphere 5. And you can see that it's a single press of a button down on the bottom right-hand side where it says Upgrade to VMFS 5. The upgrade is displayed right on the client. All the data stores are there. And most importantly, it's non-disruptive. You don't have to take your systems down to take advantage of all the new features that are in VMFS 5. Here are just a quick list. I put this in here so that you can see 2 terabytes plus. You had it available in VMFS 3, but you had to use extents. Now you can get it as a native partition inside VMFS 5. You can see that your physical RDMs are now supported above 2 terabytes. You now have a unified block size of 1 megabyte. You can see that you have all of your enhancements when it comes to your arrays and how they can interoperate with some of the advanced functionality that we see in the arrays now. Sub-block sizes for space efficiency, we talked about that, and now small file support down to 1 KB. So this will give you a much greater utilization of your storage. You're not eating up these big chunks for small files, which has always been a problem. David, anything you want to add to that section?
Yeah, Kevin, really appreciate it. So now we have the ability to go all the way up to 32 virtual processors, 1 terabyte of memory, and 64 terabytes in a single data store. I don't know very many applications that would need to grow beyond that. And then, of course, from the granular perspective, it's not only about how big you can make a data store, but getting to granular access. So I think that we started to meet a lot of the needs that our customers are asking for, and that's going to start to show in some of the different storage architectures that we are rolling out in vSphere 5. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, David. All right, let's talk about data protection, which, this is a big issue with especially a lot of companies where compliance actually, is in effect, and they want to make sure that they have the ability to back up. You'll see that now with data protection, which is built into, like I said, vSphere 5, you can get an agentless disk-based backup and recovery of your VMs on ESX or ESXi, and these backups occur independently of power state or location of the VM. So in other words, if you're using DRS and your VM is moving from one host to another host to another host, and you really don't know where it's running at any certain time, you don't have to worry about that with this data recovery, because it actually will lock in on that VM no matter where it is and show that it was backed up, shows that it was archived, and give you the ability to make sure you have that without having to take down or use any special agents. You can see that the VMs can be either a full restore, the full VM, or you can get file level restores. You can also get data deduplication to limit the amount of disk space that you need. So you could take snapshots, use data deduplication so that you're using less storage. So instead of backing up, let's say that you have your file server on there, and you have a whole bunch of Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint presentations, and people are making changes. Like, I go in here and I add a slide to this presentation, or I go in and I just change a couple of words. Instead of saving that whole file again as a different file because it's been changed, what the deduplication will do is just change the deltas. So this way you can restore the old file, or you can restore the new file, which is the old file with the delta changes, so that you're not backing up that file twice for just a small amount of data change. So as you can see from a restore standpoint, you can also, the VM goes down, you can go in there and select the VM image or files that you want to recover right from your data recovery repository. It's quick, it's simple, it's really easy to deploy. It's got central management right through vCenter. So in other words, giving you that single pane of glass that so many people talk about, vCenter is really getting there. It's giving you now the ability to do everything all the way through backup and restore right from a single pane of glass. And it's really cost effective when it comes to storage management because of the deduplication, which no matter what subsystem you're using, and you'll see further on down the road here, VMware has actually announced their own virtual storage appliance. So even if you don't have a centralized repository like an EMC or an IBM or a NetApp or any of those type where you're actually using internal disks, you can still get this type of functionality even though that you don't really have a subsystem. So really something that VMware has really given a lot of thought, and customers, especially some of our smaller customers that couldn't afford the high-end storage units, they're thrilled about this because it gives them that high-end storage experience without having to buy the high-end storage themselves. David, you want to add anything to this?
I sure do. Thanks, Kevin. It's really nice that VMware is adding a lot of this feature and functionality into the base level technology so that as you upgrade from vSphere 4 to vSphere 5, you're going to be able to get access to a lot of these technology pieces. And of course, we've listened to what you've had to say by integrating these technologies into the advanced data center architectures that you have around your physical storage devices. So the clean-cut integration between physical storage and virtual storage now seems to be transparent to the user. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Let's go on to the next session. Let's talk about storage DRS and vMotion. So one of the things that people have talked about, at least especially when it came out in version 3, was DRS, the ability to do dynamic resource scheduling. Or in other words, the ability to move virtual machines from host to host depending upon the performance level that you wanted, the amount of resources that the application needed. Well, now VMware has actually now moved that into storage, giving you the ability to set up your own criteria on performance matrices and set up different levels of storage so that now you can move your virtual machine's data store from one type of storage to another to increase or decrease performance characteristics. So for instance, and I'll just pick one that I've done recently, was payroll. During the, most people get paid twice a month or every other week or whatever, and payroll is important, out of 14 days, it's important really 2 or 3 days when you're processing payroll and you need a lot more resources. Then it goes more into an idle state until you need it again. Well, our customers were always asking for the ability to have much faster disk I/O, much faster response, and DRS actually gives them the ability to move it off less expensive disk with lower performance, even though it's running and you could do your standard day-to-day stuff, and move it over to a place where the database runs much quicker, much faster when it's needed at the time that it's needed. So that's something that now gives us the ability with storage DRS to be able to do that. It also gives the vMotion side of this, the ability to do change block tracking. And what this does, it actually allows you to copy blocks between your source and destination. If I show this next slide here, you'll see that now we're actually using a mirror driver in the host itself that allows us now to write to both source and destination simultaneously, so that you don't see that long lag time between moving it from one data store to another. This almost is instantaneous increase in performance when you need that performance. And it's really all built through this mirror driver and data mover that VMware has now put inside the VM kernel right in all of the hosts that go out there with vCenter 5. So with vSphere 5, sorry about that. So as you can see, this is a huge advancement. So without DRS, you can identify the data store that, the most disk space, the lowest latency, those type of things. But with DRS, you can let those characteristics be driven by an automated mechanism that puts it in the best placement for your VM. It does balancing to avoid any storage performance bottlenecks, and it uses affinity rules. So all of these things, and I'll show you the interface here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's 2 slides down. But you can see that no matter where you do the initial placement, if you look at the interface here, you could set up, I'm sorry, it's right there. You could set up your DRS operations and thresholds and make sure that they fit your business needs when you need the applications to run the best. So this is a huge enhancement. I'll tell you, it's something that I thought was much further in the future with all the different subsystems that are out there. So now you can, have a NAS box with an iSCSI box with a fiber channel box, and basically move in between all of these different architectures, all these different price points, and keep the total cost of ownership as low as possible for your environment, which in today's economy is what most companies are looking for. David, you want to add anything to DRS or vMotion?
No, that's perfect. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, and then the last thing we're going to talk about today is something that a lot of our mid-sized to smaller customers are really jumping up and down about, because this is really a game changer when we talk about somebody that only has 20 or 30 or 50 servers in their environment, and making a big investment in a centralized storage solution has always been a drawback to them to really get into virtualization. So what VMware came out with, and this, I think this is probably the biggest enhancement for small SMB companies, is a virtual storage appliance. And what do I mean by that is, well, you could put local storage inside each one of your ESXi hosts. So as we know, like if you buy a 3650 or a DL380 or a 2950 from Dell, you know that today it can hold a lot of storage. I mean, now with terabyte disks available, in fact, 2 terabyte, I just saw that somebody just announced the first 4 terabyte SATA drive. So, now with 6 slots where we can put 6 or 12 or now 24 terabytes of disk storage locally in each one of your ESXi hosts, you can get a lot of storage in a centralized storage solution without having to invest in large, centralized managed storage development. So it gives you a much lower capital cost. It drops down the knowledge barrier. Your VMware people don't now have to be storage managers anymore, because it's all part of the solution. And like I said, it enables the small to medium-sized businesses the benefits of having vSphere capabilities. I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about vMotion. I'm talking about HA. I'm talking about the ability to have highly available systems without having to have that centralized storage environment. So as you can see in here, the centralized storage, you'll see that it's really simple to install. In fact, it's a download from VMware's site in an OVF format that you basically copy over and run inside each one of your ESX hosts. Really easy to use, and obviously, the big thing is it saves you a lot of money. It will survive server failures, and this was the key benefit of the VMware solution is because of the way that they mirror disks between hosts, you can make sure that even if you lose a whole server, that your whole environment can still be up and running, and you can make sure that you can do downtime whenever you have to, and it doesn't have to be planned. So if something happens, and then you set it, you forget it, it's all automated, and you get more out of the hardware that you're buying. Because right now you really don't take advantage of all those disk slots that are in there. This gives you the ability to use this even in conjunction. So the way it works is you can see I have 3 VMware hosts here. I have a shared storage environment that you can see is spread across all 3 hosts. So as you can see, the VSA, or the virtual storage appliance, is running on each one of my hosts. So if I go ahead and click here, you can see that, like I said, each one has one running. The server has internal hard drives, so there's no additional hardware that's necessary. You don't have to go out and buy HBAs. You don't have to go out and buy additional network adapters or anything like that. All of it's included in the VSA. You can see that your storage is now clustered across all 3 hosts, so that if you lose any one host, all of your data is accessible. All of your VMs will be able to access their data store no matter where it was actively running. And then, as you can see, you're going to get this in Essentials Plus, Standard. You get HA and vMotion. If you go to Enterprise, you'll get fault tolerance, or in other words, the ability to run active VMs that are doing mirroring of the memory, so that you have less than 2 milliseconds of downtime if an application goes down, with no loss of transactions. Obviously, you get DRS in Enterprise. And then if you, believe it or not, if you go to Enterprise Plus, you'll even get storage vMotion out of this storage appliance that VMware is making available. So I'll tell you, for those small to medium businesses out there that are listening, this is a huge enhancement. And even if you think about this, even for you larger customers out there that have test and development environments, that maybe you don't want to eat up expensive disks on your large symmetric or large XIV or NetApp storage, but you want to give a robust and highly available test and dev environment, boy, this is a way to go and still give you all the features and functionality that you need to run that environment. Anything, David, you want to add to that?
No, Kevin, I think you nailed it pretty good. What I would also add maybe is to say this is fantastic for maybe remote office or branch office type environments where you want to have the overall IT architecture look into those remote locations, but give them the high availability that they want for their business. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, David. All right, with that, I'm just going to let you know that the next one of these, in fact, the final one, talking about vSphere 5 and how you can enable your private cloud with VMware, will be on October 11th. Sign up and register for that on the link that you see above. Also, Champion is going to be holding 10 different road shows in cities around the eastern U.S. Through October and November. Like I said, in the handout section of the live meeting, there's a PDF that you can download and see which one is closest to your area. If you register for them, all those events are very well attended.